Hey guys, this is Liz here with another video for you, and today I'm going to be showing you my basic dip techniques. So this is good for beginners or if you want some tips on how to improve. I'm going to be using this Texas Dippy Chics dip powder in Burning Fire. It is a very pretty shimmery color, and I always like to put my dips in a cupcake liner, especially this one. It is very full, so if you dip in that powder, it's going to kind of go all over the place. But I do end up just pouring over, so I have another cupcake liner that I'm going to use for that. So I have already removed my cuticles and done a dip in clear. So if you haven't seen my cuticle removal video, I will link that in the cards for you. These are the brushes that I'm going to be using. I like to use a stiff brush. I'm using my triple vitamin liquids and some Lint Free Cloths, as well as a toothpick to clean up my cuticles. You can also use dotting tools or an orange wood stick. I like to use a toothpick for my cuticles. Alright, so you want to start with your base coat, whatever number that is. It's going to say base. I've already dehydrated before I did a dip and clear. I wiped my hands down with alcohol. All of this just helps to remove the oil and dirt from your nails. So I did a dip and clear with this Super Nail Clear. Again, this is not necessary to do a dip and clear, but if you are having problems with lifting, then I would suggest to do that. I already activated and filed and buffed the clear to make sure that it was nice and smooth on my nail to give it a good base. But this did make my base coat dry really quickly, as you will see here with my first dip. So I'm using my pinky as a support so that I have more control while I'm brushing on my base. And I'm going to start a little ways away from my cuticle, kind of push and fan out that brush, trying to get like just a hairline away from my proximal fold as I put on that base. So again, you're trying to get as close as possible without getting anything on your skin. I always wipe my brush on a lint free cloth before I put it back in my bottle. This just helps to prevent contamination. So yep, you see there, it just dried almost immediately after I put it on my thumb. I did get a little bit of color on there, and this is not a big deal. I usually suggest 2 or 3 coats of color anyway. So once you put that second and or third coat on there, it's gonna clean up any of those imperfections that you have. And this is like a big, this is a big imperfection, but again, it's not a big deal. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on a second coat immediately because it's completely dry. But usually I will suggest waiting for at least a minute before you brush off with a stiff brush like that, because you don't want to brush all of your color off. If you are going to brush right after you dip, use a soft brush. So this second coat's going to go on a little bit better, but these, and I'm just going to kind of show you how I dip in, just kind of laying my finger in there. But yeah, this liquid was just drying really fast. It usually does not dry this fast. Again, it's just because I had activated that clear before. And this is like, I think a day after I did that dip and clear. So I was kind of surprised that it was still drying so quickly. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on with my other fingers. And my usual process, if I'm not having problems like my liquid's drying too quickly, is to do one nail, clean my cuticle, and then move on to the next nail and dip that nail. I'll dip all of my nails and then come back to the first one that I did and then brush it off with a stiff brush. This is just showing how I dip if you're dipping straight into the jar right there. But again, it was just like drying really quickly, and even, you know, the outsides were not getting covered. So I just decided to do a dip or brush all of my nails with some of the base coat and let that dry, just to kind of help with it drying so quickly. And that seemed to work pretty well, so I was able to just do my usual process after doing that. So here you'll see that I'm kind of using a different technique to get really close to my cuticle right there, where I kind of fan the brush out going sideways. And I do this sometimes when I'm trying to get really close to that cuticle and I want to get a good amount of base. Since I didn't really have a lot of color right there at my cuticle, I wanted to get a good amount of base at the cuticle. So that kind of helps to do that. So here's my second dip with this one, and the first dip did not get hardly any at all on there. And I'm gonna lay flat for this one. So there's pretty much 3 different techniques that you can do, and you kind of have to just try and figure out what works for you. So you can dip in, which when you're dipping in, you want to make sure that the powder is kind of loosened up in there. So you'll either stir it like I'm doing here with the toothpick, or you can, before you even open the jar, just kind of roll it around before you open it up, and that'll kind of loosen up the powder. So when you're dipping in, you're kind of dip in at a 45-degree angle. And I kind of like wiggled my finger to get it down in there. And you want to make sure that you clean up your cuticle after each dip, and you can use that soft brush if you want to clean off the excess before going on to the next finger. The third way is to pour over, and you want to make sure that your liquids don't dry too fast for this method, because you're going to have to kind of pour over and turn your finger as you're pouring. And then you have to have time to clean up your cuticle after as well. So these, you want to make sure that your liquids aren't too fast. So this is the effects of you kind of brushing or using that soft brush to brush after. It will get product buildup on it at the end. But what you can do is just pull it off, and if that doesn't work, you can soak, or I have soaked my brushes. It's probably not the best thing to do for them, but don't put all of the bristles in there. Just put a small amount of acetone into a very small or short jar, and just soak the ends of it, and that should take that product off. So if you've gotten anything out of this video so far, please make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. That just helps me to continue to make videos like this for you. And if you have any questions, make sure that you comment below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So for this nail, I already had 2 coats of color and didn't want to do another full coat. It probably wouldn't have hurt anything to do another full coat, but I just decided to just try to fill in those spots on the side. I probably should have taken off a little bit more of the liquid there before I brushed it, because it got liquid all over my finger, but I just used the toothpick just to clean that up. And you just want to make sure if anything like that happens that you just kind of separate it from your skin. Just make sure that you get as much off as possible. That way it'll make it easier for you to file and buff later on, because if it's sticking to your skin, it's going to be a lot harder to file that. So it kind of looked a little patchy, but once I file and buff it, you're not going to notice any patches like that at all. So just patching into this other side as well. I think I did a little bit better for that side and didn't get it all over my skin this time. There you go, good job. So how many dips of color you do is completely up to you. I usually do just 2 to 3. But if you want your nails to be thicker, you might want to add another dip, or add a dip of clear before and after. But all of that is just personal preference, whether you like your nails to be thicker or if you like them to be thinner. So I always recommend swatching the colors before you put them on your nails too. And this will kind of help you to see if you need a clear coat or a coat of clear dip to encapsulate your color. Some colors don't. This one actually, I did encapsulate a couple of the nails just to see if it would make a difference, because I had not, whenever I do my swatches, I usually don't really buff them, or I haven't been lately. So I just wanted to do that just to see if it would make a difference, and it really didn't. So, but if you swatch your colors before you put it on your nails, which I suggest you do it, you can kind of test that out too, if you need to encapsulate it in clear, or if it would be fine with you just buffing it straight onto the color. So if you don't have swatch sticks, you can use the top of your jar to swatch, or you can use plastic utensils like plastic knives, plastic spoons, the handle side of a plastic fork. All of that will work for swatching. So you don't have to go out and buy swatches right away. But if you are gonna do a lot of dipping, then I would suggest investing in some swatch sticks, and I will link some that are not too expensive in the description for you if you are interested in that. So after you get your color all built up like you want it to, then the last step is to activate. So when you're activating, I just activate all of my nails, and I usually activate a couple of times. It may not be necessary, but sometimes because my nails, I do 2 or 3 dips of color and then a dip of clear. I want to make sure that activator is going all the way through those layers of dip. So I will activate and then let it kind of soak in and then activate again. I also always make sure that I wipe my brush after I brush it onto my nail, because even though I brush with a stiff brush, there is still little particles of that dip, and you'll see that Lint Free wipe will start turning colors a little bit. So you don't want all of that getting into your activator bottle, because it'll just make it cloudy and possibly contaminate it. So I always just kind of wipe my brush before. So that's going to be all for this video. I will put my filing in a different video just so it's easier for you to see that if you need any tips on filing. But for now, that's going to be all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.